Hi. Negotiation is one of the critical skills that every living person, living being, organization, or business must understand and be able to critically or carefully handle if they must win. A deal, whether it's a deal, whether it's a contract, whether it's simply a buy and sell haggle, whether it is a trade bargain, it's important that you have the ability to consistently have a win win. That sounds like an impossibility. But what is the one thing that will ensure that you will always have a win win in your negotiation? If you stay with me till the end, I'm going to share with you this one thing that you would always, they will always offer you a win win in your negotiation. It's a rule that you cannot afford to ignore. My name is Julius Afolabi, and this is Premium Coaching. Now, the subject is why should you think through before negotiating? Why should you think through before negotiating? Some years ago, I had lived in a particular apartment for about 10 years. And all through the 10 years, there has not been any kind of uplift or any kind of care from the landlord. And this was quite frustrating. We principally we didn't have water. We depended on the water corporation, which is which should be a defect on taking up the house, because depending on the water corporation in a country like Nigeria is a failed negotiation. That's the truth. It's a failed and frustrating strategy. However, because this particular accommodation was located in a peaceful environment, and principally because my wife loved that particular accommodation, it was just the option that it was the best option as at then. And then we're preparing to have a baby, our first baby then, when we were looking for this apartment. So, and my wife was not ready to start having children in the place where I lived as a bachelor. So we needed a change of environment. And so we got this particular apartment. It didn't have, right then, the water corporations were mildly effective, but we knew that it wasn't going to be consistent. But we got the apartment with the hope and the promise that there was going to be a borehole. But for 10 years, this promise did not come to reality. So, and we already had about our 3 kids then, and this was very frustrating. I would have to now go opposite in the environment to go and fetch water. That could be frustrating and draining as well. So we came to a point where we're tired of it and we wanted to get out of this accommodation. But then we were looking for something better. This time around, we wanted a virgin house, right? We were clear about what we wanted. We wanted a virgin house. And then the virgin house in the city where we live is quite expensive. But then we were ready to pay in order to get what our peace, right? The peace was much more important than whatever the price was. So we got this apartment that was going to go for almost 7 figures, right? Said it was about 850, and we had to pay for, I mean, caution fee for about 100,000 thereabouts, and this was about 950, and we're ready to pay. In fact, we had made a commitment, but amazingly, we got to the apartment while it was completed, and it didn't have a changeover switch, and then there were no bulbs inside the apartment. And I asked the landlord, and why is it that they don't have light bulbs and there's no changeover? I say, well, A changeover is no big deal because the environment, it was a virgin house, it had everything and all that, and it was close to the road. We're taking the vicinity to the children's school, and everything had been in consideration. But then, why shouldn't there be bulbs in a house that was going to cost about 950 for a year? So I sat back and I began to think through, and I said, well, if fixing bulbs that's less than 10,000 naira or 5,000 naira for this apartment was too much for this landlord, then he's not a person that you should stay in that premises. And then we sat back and decided that we should go back and renegotiate with our landlord. Where we're staying for almost half that particular price. That's about 500. Now you can see we're paying double for what we're not going to get complete. Package for. And then went back to our landlord, our current landlord, and decided to go meet him. That, well, you have not fulfilled your promise over the years, and not even a single uplift has happened within 10 years. We're tired of this. Is there any way in which we can sort this out or talk about it? And then before doing that, we had prayerfully considered that option, because it was difficult to even see him or sit down and have a discussion with him. But then myself and my wife went to go and see him, and then we spoke at length and renewed our contract. Peaceful, we were able to arrive at a compromise that he was going to do the borehole, and it was going to start if we were going to make commitment with our next rent, right? And we said, okay, what are the things that we actually lack in this particular building? We decided we're going to put them up and make it up to the standard that we want. And we decided to bring in somebody that was going to do all the fixing. After all the costing, it was going to cost us about 250 extra, right? 250 extra. I would have left the place long enough, but because my wife and my family, the environment was very conducive to raise a family. So that's a core thing that we needed. Now, to save you all the other details, was that at the end of the day, we were able to save extra 250,000 naira by employing 200,000 naira to give the present apartment that we have the kind of fittings that is required to be able to meet the standard that we need, instead of being controlled by our frustration over 10 years. Now, this is where the lesson and the one thing that will always help you to get a win-win from your negotiation. Now, from my story, which is a practical experience, and from all forms of research on negotiation, there are basic things that you must understand. A deal is simply a package, an arrangement, or a bargain of mutual advantage, right? That is to say, it must be profitable to you, at the same time a win for the person that is making an offer. So in every negotiation, there is a consideration, there is an offer, and there is a consideration, right? So what is the one thing that you need to do if you are going to consistently have a win-win in a negotiation? The one thing that you need to do is to think through. Don't be controlled by the frustration of your present circumstance, in the sense that you might like a particular thing to a fault, and that your likeness for that thing will control your objectivity for negotiation. This is why you need a think through before commitment. Commitment must not be instant, right? But decision making should be instant. Diagnosis can be instant, but commitment need not be instant. And that's why you find out that deal breakers, heavy deal breakers, will take whatever the deal package is and ask you that, let us go and look through what the covenants of the commitments are before we sign the deal. One of the things that has made our country, most of the people that negotiate for loan, they ask for a loan, they do not take the time to look through the loan covenant. Normally end up with a surprise when everything that is contained in the loan covenant begins to play out against their reality. All right. So in negotiation, negligence is not considered as ignorance, right? It's rather it is considered as part of the negotiation, right? Your negligence is part of your negotiation. So that means that whatever it is that you omit is going to cost you in the life of that particular negotiation. And this is why you need to absolutely think through before you negotiate. And in thinking through, number one thing is that don't be afraid to walk away. Step number one is don't be afraid to walk away. Number two, don't be afraid to ask for more. Now, you should understand that asking for discounts does not necessarily have to be cash, right? You could rather, for instance, if somebody have an offer for a coaching class, rather than asking for a cash discount on the price, why don't you ask for a bonus lecture or a bonus support, right? And this is one of the reasons why there are quite a catalog of rich and connecting and resonating bonuses to a course is to negotiate for what your commitment, your buying commitment, right? So the way to make it a win-win is that what you're making somebody an offer, and then you're garnishing it with what the bonuses. And also, even if you're taking up a job, right? Now, it's not only the package, right? It's not only your basic salary. You look at the incentive. What are the other incentives apart from the package? If you're looking for if you're looking at the demand of your expertise alone, what would happen in the end is that you might suffer some other things that you failed to sit back to consider. Now, there was this young man that was that wanted to make a career leap, right? And where he was presently was he was a contract staff, but he was being offered a permanent job, right? Like a permanent job where in another organization. So he was asking me if the option to take up whether they could to maintain the contract job or to take up the permanent offer. Now I began to ask him questions in order to analyze and diagnose his objectivity in making the decision. Now, what is the frustration that is making you to consider the permanent job? Is it because it's a contract job? Now, in the contract job, what are the things? Has he informed your career growth to enable you negotiate for a better offer? Are you growing in that contract job? Is there any threat on your withdrawal or on termination of that particular contract? So these questions were probing what makes the permanent offer more rewarding than the contract offer. After the volatility analysis session that I had with him, he decided to stay in the contract job. So it might be a contract offer or a contract job. You might be in a contract job, but your potentials and your growths and quite a number of things are available to you than a permanent job that you are not sure of. These are the critical considerations that you have to think through when you are making negotiations. So, I don't know what you're about to negotiate for, even if it's a relationship, right? Now, it's not far from the truth that a person can be nice but might not be a compatible partner, right? People can be very beautiful but lack the character. A lot of people are attractive but don't have the content that will sustain the kind of home that you intend. These are all negotiations. So every day of our life we are negotiating, but quite a number of people do not end up with a win-win. Remember, whatever it is that the deal is, it is a bargain or an arrangement that should be of mutual advantage. So don't forget, the one thing you need to do in order to consistently have a win-win in all your negotiation is to think through. And while you're thinking through, step one is that be clear about what you want to achieve. Step number two, don't be afraid to walk away. Step number three, don't be afraid to ask for more. In doing this, you would always have what? A win-win. What is it that resonates with you in this particular video, kindly share with us. My name remains Julius Afolabi. This is Premium Coaching. Thank you and God bless you.